continue to stand by. Today's conference will begin momentarily. Once again, please continue to stand by. Today's conference will begin momentarily. Good afternoon, and thank you all for holding. Your lines will remain on a listen-only mode for the duration of today's conference. I would like to remind all parties the call is now being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Matt Troy. Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Frontline Jobs and Internships webinar. On behalf of the Department of Homeland Security Office of Academic Engagement, my name is Matt Troy, and I will be serving as the moderator this afternoon. The Office of Academic Engagement supports the Department of Homeland Security's mission to recruit a highly effective and diverse workforce by hosting webinars for students and recent graduates on DHS job and internship opportunities. At the end of today's presentation, there will be a link to sign up so that you can get the latest information on upcoming webinars and job and internship opportunities with Homeland Security. Couple logistical notes before we start the presentation. On Adobe, all participants will be muted. If you have any issues or would like to submit a question for the presenters, please do so in the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. Any questions that we cannot answer today, we will submit via email following the presentation. We will also provide you with copies of all of the materials that will be presented. Today, we will begin with a video that will provide an overview of some of CBP's main activities. And our presenters will provide an overview of CBP's mission, the requirements to apply for a few of the frontline positions, career advancement opportunities, and an overview of the background investigation and polygraph process. At the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. And with that, we will now begin the video.
I didn't know what my options were.
I thought to myself, I needed a new mission, one as important as my last.
Customs and Border Protection gave me the perfect opportunity after I got out of the military.
I could still serve my country.
Keep America safe.
And work with people I'm proud to call my brothers and sisters.
Our mission is critical.
The job can definitely be
Excellent.
intense.
If anyone had any issues with audio, we will provide a link to the video after the presentation.
Challenging.
Joining me today is Michael Rappold, the Border Patrol Liaison to the National Frontline Recruitment Command, and Rita Lott,
To a higher
Recruitment
calling.
Program Manager.
And you're ready to push yourself.
With that, I will turn it over to Michael for the presentation.
Thank you. So CBP's mission is to safeguard America's borders, thereby protecting the public from dangerous people and materials, while enhancing the nation's global economic competitiveness by enabling legitimate trade and travel. So, what does that mean? When we break it down for trade,
we talk about travel for Customs and Border Protection. Fostering the safety and speedy international travel is key for the goal of CBP, which has been increasing passenger security through effective risk assessments, growing trusted traveler programs, and the better use of technology.
border security, CBP secures America's borders at and between the ports of entry by stopping inadmissible people and illicit goods.
Trade is working to secure and facilitate imports arriving in the United States. CBP protects U.S. agricultural resources through active inspections at ports of entry.
Our mission overview: on a typical day, our employees make 851 apprehensions, 21 criminal arrests, 5,863 pounds of illicit or illegal drugs are seized, $3.3 million of merchandise seized for intellectual property rights violations. That's based on 2017 statistics. We'll get into the candidate requirements now. So, general candidate requirements: you must successfully pass a background investigation and polygraph examination. Be referred for selection prior to your 40th birthday. This can be waived for veterans. You will be required to carry a firearm and have or obtain a valid driver's license. You must have resided in the United States for the last 3 years and be a United States citizen. You must meet job-related medical fitness and drug testing standards. Convictions of misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence are disqualifying. Our career opportunities: this is the multitude of jobs that we have available for our frontline positions currently within the CBP ranks. For the Border Patrol, our training entails 117 days of intensive instruction at our Border Patrol Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. Some of the coursework topics are criminal, immigration, nationality, and statutory laws, as well as emergency vehicle operations, physical training, weapons, marksmanship. Every trainee will proficiently speak, read, and write the Spanish language upon graduation. Some of our responsibilities: as a Border Patrol agent, you are focused 24/7 on securing our international land borders and coastal waters, safeguarding the American people from terrorists and their weapons, drug smugglers, and illegal entry of undocumented aliens. The perks: the outdoors are your office. Serve and protect your country. Work with cutting-edge technology. You can become a canine handler, operate all-terrain vehicles, or even join our Horse Patrol, which has been around since the beginning of our agency in 1924. Become an operator with our Special Operations Group with our Border Tactical Units.
Customs and Border Protection Officers. You have paid pre-academy orientation at your port of entry. So once you're selected for a job, you actually report to that port of entry where you're going, and you stay there and you learn a few things about the job for CBP before you actually attend the academy. The time that you spend at the port of entry before you go to training can vary. Usually it's around 30 days, but you could be there for as little as 2 weeks before you actually get a date to attend the academy. The academy itself is 19 weeks of training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. Intensive instruction is given at the training academy. So you will learn instruction in immigration and nationality law, law enforcement, and port-specific operations. Some of the officers will receive Spanish proficiency training, and that is dependent on where you're going to be located, at what port of entry that you're going to be attending. So if you're going to Miami or you're going to the southern border, you're going to Puerto Rico, you will have to take Spanish class. Spanish class at this particular time is offered at the Field Operations Academy in Glencoe, Georgia. CBP responsibilities. We detect and prevent terrorists and terrorist weapons from entering the United States. We enforce customs, immigration, and agricultural laws and regulations at U.S. ports of entry and pre-clearance locations throughout the globe. So basically, CBP officers do have locations overseas. We have various pre-clearance locations where we actually clear flights and passengers before they actually return to the United States. We prevent the illegal trafficking of people, narcotics, and contraband from coming into the United States. Customs and Border Protection officers inspect goods that come into the United States. We inspect almost everything that you use in your household. So all items that come into the United States usually are processed through customs. Most people are not aware that customs officers, they inspect the mail that comes in to the country. They also inspect FedEx packages. We look at cars, we look at clothing, we look at food, we look at every item that enters the United States. The perks for being a Customs and Border Protection officer, we serve and protect the country, and that is an extremely big job and one that we take with pride. We work with cutting-edge technology, which we have to stay ahead of the competition because technology is always changing, and we're having to keep up to speed with the different items that are being created throughout the country. We work as a K-9 handler. We have exciting opportunities to join the Special Response Team, which is our SRT team, and the Anti-Terrorism Contraband Enforcement teams, which work at the ports of entry as well. The opportunity for pre-clearance and other international assignments are also available. We have offices throughout the world that actually inspect cargo that is boarded on board ships before it actually comes into the United States. So we can actually look at that cargo, look at cargo manifest before goods are actually placed on the vessel to arrive in the United States. Now we go to the career benefits. Financial and job security for Customs and Border Protection officers. Veterans have accelerated hiring opportunities. Student loan repayment is also available. Personal sick leave and holiday leave are also accrued. You get 10 paid holidays per year. You get additional paid personal and sick leave time. Paid job-related training is also offered. VA benefits for approved on-the-job training programs are also available. Transportation subsidies are also available depending on what area that you are working in. Health benefits. Federal Employment Health Benefits Program, we offer that. We also offer a federal dental and vision program, federal flexibility spending account program, federal long-term care insurance program, employee assistance programs as well. Retirement and insurance benefits, thrift savings program, federal retirement plan, credit for military service, federal employees group, life insurance program. Law enforcement retirement benefits. Some quick facts about the salary that you can earn for Customs and Border Protection officers. Up to $45,000 in overtime can be earned in premium pay. When you work for Customs and Border Protection, time and grade, for 52 weeks with time and grade, you can increase to the next step. So full performance level, higher grade to achieve in a position. So basically, if you start working as a GS5 level, after 52 weeks, you will automatically be promoted to a GS7. So each step in the process requires you to work 52 weeks before you can accelerate until the next pay grade. CBP veterans. CBP values the experience, commitment, and discipline that separating service members and veterans bring to the job. That's why CBP is proud to offer rewarding careers and unique benefits to veterans seeking employment with CBP. Expedited hiring process. The hiring process for veterans, in which the hiring process itself is shortened. CBP uses a veterans recruitment appointment to streamline the hiring process for eligible veterans. Your recent military fitness test and medical examination may provide credit for completion of certain CBP requirements. This reciprocity option will make it easier for you to complete the hiring process. Paid time off. CBP strongly supports employees that have a National Guard or Reserve commitment. In fact, CBP employees whose appointment is not limited to 1 year are entitled to time off for their federal positions at full pay to perform certain types of activities or inactivity duties in the reserves or National Guard. Return to your job as if you never left. So working with CBP, you will not lose your time when you have to leave to go to reserves or report to your National Guard. Veterans hiring preference gives qualified eligible veterans an advantage over others for some positions. Veteran applicants may be ranked ahead of other candidates. Military community culture. Roughly a third of CBP staff have served in the military. If you're a veteran joining CBP, you will find many others that share your military background and principles. When it comes to principles, veterans personify CBP's core values: vigilance, integrity, and service to country. This military culture makes CBP the perfect place for veterans, reservists, and even former midshipmen or cadets. Anyone who values military culture will certainly feel right at home with CBP.
Polygraph information. We have Tricia.
Sure. Joining us virtually is Tricia Visconti from the Office of Professional Responsibility. Is going to provide a little overview of the polygraph.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. So you see the slide up here on the screen, and really what I wanted to do was just introduce that slide so everyone could have an idea of how to prepare for the polygraph. These are essentially what you'll receive when we send out your reporting instructions once you're notified that you do need to take the polygraph. And it's pretty straightforward. If you have questions, though, we'd love to take them. Generally, a polygraph takes, on average, about 4 hours to complete. However, it can require a longer time frame, and sometimes additional testing days are needed. Questions are going to be related to the national security issues that you've already provided or answered on your SF-86 or your background form. The results, again, they're going to be either pass, fail, or inconclusive, and that's why if there is an inconclusive result, sometimes you may need to come back for additional testing. There's a quality control process that is standard to all federal government polygraph exams, and that ensures that the examiners are following all our protocols and standards, and they will actually make the final determination for your exam. So, again, any questions that you have, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you, Tricia. So with that, we will move into the Q&A session. So to kick it off, Michael, we'll start with you. Would you mind providing a little bit of background? What made you want to join CBP, and what has led you to your current position?
Thank you, Troy. I started my career in June of 1996 over in San Diego. My friend, John, he lives in New Mexico now, and he had joined the Border Patrol prior to me joining, and he told me of the great fun that he has at the job, and that how it's not really a job, it's an adventure every single day. No 2 days are the same. And it intrigued me, and I decided to get involved with it. Led me down the path of joining the Border Patrol. I got to the Border Patrol Academy, and it was a lot more than I thought. I was straight out of college. I had no Spanish in my repertoire, and I showed up, and after 5 months of training, I was able to pin on the badge. I had my father pin on my badge and move through the academy and out to the field. Got to the field. We had continuing education for the first year of on-the-job training, field work with journeyman agents, different field training units down in San Diego. I worked in the eastern county of San Diego, which was fairly mountainous. Most people don't realize that San Diego and the East County is very rural. So I worked there for 6 years. During the time there, I was on a mountain unit where we were doing sign cutting every single day, tracking individuals. We surveillance outposts. I had worked with scopes and scope trucks, working infrared on the midnight shift, processing units, anti-smuggling units, plain clothes, interviewing suspects, finding out where the foot guides were within the groups, how they were smuggling, the smuggling organizations that they were involved with. From there, I was promoted to a senior patrol agent. I moved up to Buffalo, New York, my hometown, and I worked up there for over 4 years. In Buffalo, I did transportation checks. I worked hand in hand with OFO on the VACUS machines with the trains coming into the United States. I worked out on the boat patrols with the Marine Interdiction units and the Coast Guard. I worked with our air branch on several occasions. And from there, I decided to promote and move on in my career. I took on a job in Campo, California, San Diego sector, and I worked out there for almost 2 years. In there, I was the checkpoint coordinator. I was also the seized property specialist. From there, I promoted and was a patrol agent in charge up in Malta, Montana. And that was a substation that I got up and running and made into an actual station, from an 8-man, one-shift station to a 3-shift, 25-man station within the first 2 years of me being up there. From there, I learned how to manage a station, personnel, work with the union, and do a multitude of different taskings on a daily basis. Interaction with the public, liaison efforts. And from there, I decided that I wanted to continue to help my sector, and I transferred over as an operations officer at the Havre Sector Border Patrol, which is still in Montana, and I currently am part of the recruitment division. While I was at there, I decided to come up here and help out with the Border Patrol liaisons. So when it comes to a day in the life of a Border Patrol agent, you can go through a multitude of different jobs, and I haven't even touched upon horse patrol, snowmobiles. There's a bunch of different prosecutorial, different avenues. I would have never been part of special operations groups such as BORTAC, which is our SWAT team, or BORSTAR, which is our search and rescue team, all of which have very valuable missions within the Border Patrol themselves.
Great, you've had quite a busy career.
Thank you. Yeah.
Rita, mind sharing your journey to where you are now?
No, not at all. So actually, I began my federal career with the Department of Commerce as a consumer safety officer. I did that for about 8 years. And during that time, I decided that I wanted to take a trip. I've never been out of the United States before, and I said, hey, let's go on a cruise. So I decided to go on a Carnival cruise for about 7 days, had a wonderful time. When I came back into the United States, however, I was stopped by Customs at the time, and they sent me to secondary, and there I was, my first time out of the country. Never met any CBP officers or Customs officers before, and I was scared out of my mind. So I'm in secondary, and the officer is checking my bag, and she's very nice. She was extremely polite. And so I asked her, I said, how did you get this job? Do you have any job openings? Do I, join the team? And she told me about going on USA Jobs. So that is where you start. You go to USA Jobs, you set up your account, you look to see what openings are available for CBP officers, whether it's a 5-7 or a 9 position, or if you're a veteran, that is your starting point. So she pointed me in that direction, and I went back home, and I talked to my brother and said, they held me in secondary for like 30 minutes or so just asking me questions. And I was like, there was a female checking my bag, and she was doing it, like, very well. And he was like, why don't you try? Just apply for the job. And I said, I don't know if I could do that. Never, wanted to be in law enforcement before. And I thought about it, and after about 2 years or so, I moved, and I started working for the Department of Agriculture, which I worked for 4 years. And during that time, I did actually go online and apply for a CBP position. And I was hired in 2003, and I started my career at the seaport of Charleston, South Carolina, where I worked for 6 years. And Charleston is a lovely place. And there's a lot of work to do at that particular port of entry. So you inspect cargo ships. So I did a lot of opening containers and walking on the port and just learning a lot about CBP from that point of view. The Port of Charleston also had a military base there as well, so I learned how to actually inspect military aircraft coming in. As I'm learning to do these things, I also learned that CBP had a lot of opportunities that I was not aware of as I was studying and learning and training. There are so many opportunities with CBP, so many different directions that you can go into. I learned about their overseas operations. I learned about their targeting teams. I learned so many different things about CBP. So that's when I started looking and trying to decide, do I want to go somewhere else to work? Do I want to expand? So that's the good thing about CBP. There are so many different opportunities for you. You can work at the seaport. You can work at the airport environment. You can work in the land border. You can work overseas. They're actually building up our targeting team, which is here in the D.C. area, for you to work if you're interested. There are all types of computer jobs that you can have working for CBP. So whatever your imagination, CBP has jobs for you. So the people that you see at the ports of entry when you come in at the airport, that is not their only function. We have a whole line of people, support personnel who work behind the scenes to make the things that you do see at the airport happen. So I began to learn about those things when I was at the Port of Charleston, South Carolina. And I decided, I want to go to the academy and see if I can make a difference at the academy and train new people coming into CBP. A little bit about myself. I am a nerd. So for all of you, I don't know if you all have criminal justice backgrounds or whatever. I actually have a degree in biology, microbiology, and I have a minor in chemistry. So before I even went to the academy, I told my friends, you know what, I'm going to go for CBP and see if I can actually be an officer. And they were like, that's not in your personality. You're going to actually carry a gun. No, we don't see you making it. So that was like a bet with my friends, we don't think you're going to make it. So the bet was 6 years. So I stayed in Charleston, South Carolina 6 years so I could win the bet. So after my 6 years were up, I did go to the academy, and both of my parents are actually school teachers. They're retired school teachers now. And growing up in a small town from Mississippi, I told myself I would never, ever be a teacher. It's something I never wanted to do. I went to the academy, and I actually loved instructing classes. I actually fell in love with it. I was at the academy for almost 4 years. The thing I like about CBP, not only do you have a lot of jobs, that you can actually do or work in CBP, you push yourself. You learn to step out of your comfort zone and do things that you did not think that you could do. And so while I was at the academy, never been in the military, I decided to join the Honor Guard. So here I am, trying my best to keep up with guys who had prior military experience in learning the whole Honor Guard routine. And I succeeded, and I am still in the Honor Guard today. So that's the good thing about CBP. And while I was at the academy, I instructed a lot of trainees, and the thing that I told them was, look, don't get stuck in a rut. When new opportunities present themselves, step out, say yes, try new things. And I'm proud to say that a lot of trainees took my advice, and they have been succeeding very well, moving up the ranks in CBP, which is another good thing about Customs and Border Protection. Although you might apply on USA Jobs as a GS5, just know that every year, 52 weeks, you will move up. So 1 year you're GS5, the next year you're GS7, then 9, then 11, then 12. Automatic, no competition. That is a good thing about CBP. Also, if you're willing to learn and you're willing to take those extra steps and try new things, there are different opportunities and TDY opportunities for you within CBP. So if you're working in a location and you get a little bored, you say, I want to try something new, you can apply to go on a TDY to another location, like here in D.C., and work in headquarters and see what goes on behind the scenes. So we do have those opportunities for you to move. So if you're in a job or you're in a location that you're not very happy with, we have multiple locations throughout the country, and you can also apply to go online. So after I left the academy, I came here to headquarters to learn. I've been here at headquarters for now 5 years. And while here at headquarters, I've had 3 different jobs, because once you get here, you see something else, you decide, hey, I want to try that for a little while. So I've been here in the recruitment office for about 2 years, and I absolutely love it because I love telling people about CBP. When you compare CBP to other private jobs, CBP is the best because of all the opportunities that we have. And I tell people that CBP is like a hidden treasure. It's like a gem that most people really don't know about. And our responsibilities are so vast. So this is the best place to be. And a typical day for me is not very typical. There is so much that goes on with CBP. I tell people all the time that if you are bored, you're doing something wrong, because there is always something to learn. There are always new techniques that are coming out. Everything changes on a daily basis within CBP. No 2 days are ever the same. Whether you're working at the seaport, at the airport, at the land border, no 2 days are ever alike. So it keeps you from being bored. You can always learn. You're always training. It is a career. This is not a job, and it's a family. But when you get to your ports of entry and you're assigned to a team, those people on your team will become like your family.
Thank you, Rita, and congratulations to both of you on very successful careers. It's tough to beat Charleston, South Carolina on the coast for a first job location.
Beautiful location.
So with that said, what states and cities are most CBP positions available?
Can I start us out?
Customs and Border Protection officers work throughout the country. So we're just not located at the land borders or at those particular locations. So we have airports throughout the country, whether it's New York or Chicago or Memphis or Miami, or you can go to San Francisco. So we're spread throughout the country, a lot of different locations where you can work, whether they're large locations or smaller ones, like the little places that we have in Mississippi, where there are only a few people working. But any location that you pick, you just have to make the best of that situation. So wherever you are, if you're working around a lot of officers or you just have a few people there, you continue to learn. You learn about your environment. You learn about the people in that area, which is why I love CBP so much, because not only do you get to move to different cities if you're willing to travel, you also get to learn the culture in those different cities where you go. So it's an amazing job. And there are so many different places that you can work. We have our pre-clearance offices in Toronto, if you want to go there, in Vancouver. We have places in Aruba that you can go. But our overseas locations are also increasing as well. So if you like to spend time overseas, just know that CBP pays for your housing while you're overseas. They pay for your kids to go to school. So if you want that opportunity and you just want to give it a try, I welcome you to come to CBP.
For Border Patrol in particular, we're hiring on the southwest border, so Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Those are our primary locations. And from there, once you do some time on the southwest border, we have locations on the northern border as well as internationally with attaché positions overseas, along with the CBP officers.
Rita, I think you listed off just about every city that's hot for young professionals. So yeah, many great opportunities there. Michael, you mentioned that you spend much of your career as a Border Patrol agent. Would you mind sharing some of your experiences, maybe some significant events that have shaped your career?
There's a lot of different events that shape your career. So my first day on the job, going out to the field, I was put with a journeyman. Chris is his name, and he showed me around. We had the experience and the time to go through everything and the jobs that he had out there in the field. While we were driving around and he's showing me around, we happened to see some suspicious activity that we ended up stopping a vehicle, and ended up being a very lengthy process of criminal undocumented aliens. So we ended up catching all of them, bringing them back to the station, processing, working the intelligence aspects, and figuring out what, where, when, how, everything that was associated with them in their criminal enterprise and their networking. What I failed to mention was the very next morning I had to get up early to go to my post academy, because we continue our job with our learning for the full first year that you're on the job. So I had about 2 hours of sleep and went to my post academy to learn Spanish, learn more immigration law, and learn more criminal law. So it was exciting, it was thrilling, it was challenging. It was what really made me into the agent that I wanted to be, and realized how important the job was and what we did on a daily basis. In my career, I've seen so much, and I've seen so many changes. The one thing that doesn't change is not everybody shows up at the port of entry to declare their intentions to the United States. So Border Patrol agents are needed out on the border at all times, all day, every day, in between.
Sounds like you had quite the first day orientation.
Yes, it was. It was a blast.
Rita, what about you? For a border protection officer, what significant events or experiences stand out to you?
Well, I'm going to have to reflect back to Charleston, South Carolina. So in learning the CBP job, not only do we work at the seaport, but we get to work at the Air Force Base. And the thing that sticks out in my mind the most is I went to the military base to clear a flight, and the military personnel on board that flight had no idea they were being sent home. So they were told to grab their gear and get on the plane. That's all they were told. They weren't told where they were going or anything like that. So I walk on the plane, and immediately I notice there's something different. Like, okay, there's something different about this flight. And I look around, and they all had their weapons on them, which is unusual. They were all dirty, and they had just came directly from battle or whatever. and they had lost a couple of their friends in that particular battle. And they looked, and they were like, we're home. Some were kind of really giddy, like, okay, hurry up, clear my flight so we can get off. And some were a little, my buddy didn't make it back, type of thing. So I remember that, and it sticks out in my mind, because as soon as I told them, okay, now you can get off the plane, they ran off the plane, got down on their knees, and literally kissed the ground. And that's one of those moments that will stick with you forever, to see that, to see them come directly from battle onto a plane, not knowing that they're coming home, get off the plane, and just be so grateful to be home. That is like one of those moments that will stay with me forever.
Wow, that's a powerful experience.
Yes.
So you both shared very intense situations in your job, and it's important to be able to lean on your colleagues in those situations. What is the workplace culture like at CBP?
Border Patrol, just like Rita had talked about, and CBP in general, is a family. So you can talk about what your family life is like outside of work, but when you're at work and you're doing the job and you're relying on other people to come through for you, and you realize that that person that's standing next to you or sitting next to you has gone through everything that what you've done at the academy, and is the experiences that you've had, you realize that there is a bond there that can't be touched. There's a bond there that can't be duplicated. There's simple ways of explaining it, but that's the bottom line. And anybody that's been a veteran and been part of the military or has had that type of fraternity, they know what I'm talking about, and it resonates deeply. And I've been with it for 22 years, and I'm still here. I'm still recruiting. So.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, because being a woman coming into what used to be a male-dominated field, you get tested. And so I was tested when I was at the Port of Charleston, South Carolina, pretty much like everyone else. So we worked at night a lot of times at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And the guys like to tease me a little. They like to test me. They like to make sure that I was aware of what was going on around me at all times. And it helped me to keep my guard up and to just pick on little things, because they would try to sneak up behind me or little things like that, and just kind of play little jokes on me. But it made me more aware of my surroundings, and it helped me in the long run. And once they saw, particularly on one night, it was pouring down rain, and we were working outside, and they wanted to see if I would actually stay outside in the rain with them, opening containers in the pouring rain. And I did it. I stayed with them. I did not go for cover. They said, hey, you can go inside and just input information into the computer while we do the work. I was like, no, if you guys are going to stay outside, stand outside with you. And that's how I earned their respect. And so from that moment forward, whenever they were out for dinner or they were going somewhere, I always got the invite, and I knew that they always had my back. So we are like a family. And those people who tested me, I still stay in contact with today. And we email each other all the time, and we talk to each other, and I went to their weddings and all types of stuff. So we are one big happy family.
That's great. Service to country and a big happy family is a great combo.
Yes.
So we have many people on this webinar who are eligible to apply for positions, but some are students who intend to finish their degree program before applying. What are some ways that they could get involved with CBP before graduation?
Well, there's a multitude of different ways that they can be involved. We have different programs out there. The Explorers program, there's pathway programs, there's internships. There's plenty of different avenues for them to be involved. Volunteering within their communities can also help them. I was a former Boy Scout, so I understood the values that the Border Patrol had, so I made sure that I kept up on those things also later on in life, and it was a natural progression. So different venues also, different things to think about also is just because you're going for your degree doesn't mean you can't finish it up later online or whatever have you. You can apply, get into the process, and move forward. Border Patrol does not require you to have a degree to be an agent. So my friend that talked me into the Border Patrol, he didn't have his degree at the time when he signed up. He finished his up online. So, and later on in life, I had my degree. I got my degree, my 4-year degree before I joined the Border Patrol, but then I followed it up with a master's degree online. So there's plenty of different avenues for you to come into the patrol or into the CBP in general. And not all of them have to be a cookie cutter experience.
That's great. And all of the programs that Michael talked about, we will provide additional information on those when we send out the email with the presentation materials. So outside of participating in one of those programs, what other professional experiences would make a candidate stand out on their application?
Well, it kind of depends on what type of experience that they have. We're looking, of course, for frontline positions. We're looking for law enforcement. Any type of law enforcement experience that you have is something that we look for. If you have experience in ROTC programs, if you have any type of military experience, like if you're in the Honor Guard or the Reserves or something like that, we're looking for that type of experience. Anything that will help prove to us that you are capable of working alone, thinking, able to solve problems, and you're dedicated and committed to what you do.
Great. In addition to experience, what kind of people are you looking for? What characteristics really stand out to be a good fit for CBP?
I think someone that's very outgoing, willing to adapt and change, because working for CBP is evolving on a daily basis. So you want to make sure that we're looking for people who are professional, who are willing to work, who have good standards, and we want to make sure that they have not been in any trouble. And so we're trying to reach out to as many college kids as we can possibly to reach. Like Michael said, that having a degree for Border Patrol is not a requirement, but for CBP, we like for you to have some type of experience in combination with your degree or working toward a degree. So whatever hours, college hours that you have in combination with them.
For Border Patrol, honor, integrity, service to country, the core values that we state.
Yes.
So that's what we look for first and foremost with our applicants, is them having the integrity and honor.
Absolutely. So once hired, for some of the positions, there is a physical fitness test. Would you mind describing what that entails and how to prepare for it?
The physical fitness test itself is just basically trying to make sure that you're flexible and that you can stand on your feet for a certain amount of time. You can actually move, kneel, and bend, and be able to work in a fast-paced environment.
So running standards.
Yes.
We have a 1.5 mile run. You have the 220 for the sprints and step tests, those type of things that are being evaluated currently for them. The agility.
Yes.
All right, start your cardio now.
That's
yes.
right, first and foremost.
So you mentioned earlier that you go through language training for Spanish. Is there additional foreign language knowledge that would be beneficial when applying for a position?
Border Patrol in particular, you have to be proficient in the Spanish language before you graduate, where not all CBP positions have that. Border Patrol, I believe, still is the only federal agency that requires it as a job requirement. So when I showed up for Border Patrol, I didn't know a lick of Spanish. I didn't know nacho, taco, and burrito. It was terrible. And I showed up on the first day of the academy, and it was 4 hours of hands-on, everyday speaking, writing, reading Spanish. And luckily, I have some great classmates that their ears probably bled every night when I practiced with them with my Spanish, but we got through it. Rosetta Stone is one of those things that we utilize to help put together our course. So those are things that people can go to their local libraries, rent out. If they don't have the experience, that's something that they can get from their local.
Good to know. Rita, you mentioned that throughout your career there is some opportunity to move around in different positions. How easy would it be to move between being Customs and Border Protection officer to a Border Patrol agent?
Oh, well, in order to move from a CBP officer to a Border Patrol agent, you have to go through the Border Patrol Academy. So you have to apply for the position, be assigned to a sector, and go to their academy in Artesia, New Mexico.
So for Border Patrol to go to the blue side of the house, there's an abbreviated academy where we're learning a little bit more about the customs laws in particular. Border Patrol agent, to give you the history of it, they're legacy inspectors, horse-mounted inspectors. So Border Patrol has the authority to work at the ports of entry as well as outside of the ports of entry, whereas the CBP officers have the port of entry as their area for their statutory authorities. So in the past we've transferred over, and we've had plenty of people that have gone to the blue side of the house. Border Patrol in particular, when other agencies are looking to fill their ranks, historically we've had plenty of people that have gone to other three-letter agencies within the federal government, and they've been hired first and foremost. So we're always one of the first that other agencies look to take from to fill their ranks. So.
That's great. There's so much opportunity to move both positions and, as you mentioned, locations. Mm-hmm. So final question. Any last piece of advice that you could give to everyone on this webinar who are thinking about applying?
Don't hesitate. If you think that this is the right career and this is something that you want to do, go and do it. Fill out your application on USA Jobs. Apply now, get into the process. The process can take a while, 6 to 9 months, depending on who you are and what your background is and where you're coming from. And be ready to go off to the academies. Get physically fit, be ready for our Spanish, be ready to learn in our environments. We look forward to seeing you.
Yes, and just know that Customs and Border Protection is the largest federal law enforcement agency in the world, pretty much. We have over 50 countries that CBP officers are in at this particular time. And we look forward to welcoming each and every one of you. So if you'll go to our website, cbp.gov/careers, and look at that information, and please decide to join us.
Great, and that's all the time we have for Q&A. We are now going to transition to our polling questions, so please take a couple minutes to fill out the questions on the screen. Submit any additional questions via email to academicengagement@hq.dhs.gov. We will email all presentation materials and the answers to any questions we did not have the chance to answer today. Also on your screen is a link to sign up for the Office of Academic Engagement Recruitment Listserv. This listserv provides an overview of all upcoming recruitment events, such as webinars, open job and internship opportunities, as well as interviews of current employees and tips for your federal resume. With that, I would like to thank Michael, Rita, and Tricia for joining virtually. And thank you, everyone, for taking time to participate. This ends today's webinar.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, and this does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. All right.
It's your jam.